While France has turned its back on fracking, Canada is embracing it. That's especially true in the province of Alberta. It's known for its majestic mountains, wide open prairies, Chinook winds, and hockey. But now there is something else happening under Alberta's big skies. It's an energy revolution. But as CCTV's Jessica Stone reports from Alberta, residents are concerned that fracking may be unleashing more from the earth than just energy.
In the middle of the prairie here in Alberta, there's something else thriving besides lush grass and fat cattle. Alberta's grasslands are sprouting pump jacks, and what they're pumping from the prairie is oil. To reach it, crews must first fracture the earth or frack it. Fracking technology injects thousands of liters of chemically infused water and sand into the ground under high pressure to release oil and gas trapped in shale deposits. The fracking industry has moved in quickly in this part of Alberta. We're about 40 kilometers north and west of the city of Calgary, and residents say in just the past 2 years alone, more than 80 wells have been drilled and fracked for oil. The Alberta provincial government says 5,000 new horizontal wells have been drilled and fracked since 2008. Fracking has increased Alberta's 2011 crude oil production by 7%.
That's 300 feet, so they're 6 times worse than us.
But a group of residents in Cochrane, Alberta, are concerned that all of these new wells are making them sick. They've reported headaches, fatigue, even hair loss.
About 4 years ago, about when they first started fracking, I started losing hair. This is a wig that I wear wherever I go.
It's that bad.
Yeah. And I just noticed, I used to have nice long blonde hair too, and I noticed that I would always have bits of hair on my coat and this kind of thing.
And there was no family history or no experience having that happen to you?
No.
Nielle Hawkwood and her husband Howard believe her symptoms are tied to the fumes coming off the oil wells and pump jacks in the fields around them. Howard says their herds of beef cattle have been affected as well. Last year, 10% of them died. Water tests showed elevated levels of chlorines and chlorides.
The autopsy reports have come back from these cows, and their electrolytes are all out of balance. So the veterinarians didn't know how to treat it or how to deal with it.
I've got a background with a global experience with the industry, and I'm just deeply ashamed of how the Alberta industry actually operates in this case.
Dan Thomas spent 30 years in the global oil and gas industry as an engineer. Thomas says the wells in Cochrane don't have adequate equipment to incinerate the gases and chemicals coming to the surface during the fracking process. While some companies have begun to pipe away the leftover material, Thomas says some wells don't have incinerators at all, releasing the gases into the air instead.
And if this was the UK, Western Europe, or even parts of the US, you just simply would not be allowed to vent, flare, or burn any kind of product coming out of that well. It would have to be captured.
American toxicologist David Brown is conducting a health study on more than 27 people who live near a natural gas development in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania. While he has no conclusive evidence linking their lesions, headaches, and nausea to fracking, he says his water tests are turning up chlorides and his air tests are turning up benzene.
So I've never seen the toxicology of these chemicals ever before. It tells me it's probably not a good idea to go around drinking something that nobody's looked for.
Alberta Health Services told CCTV News that it studied the symptoms Nielle Hawkwood and other residents reported and gave them the results. But, quote, the existing available data for this area has not identified elevated exposures. The study did not attempt to link the symptoms to the chemicals the energy companies use in the fracking process. As of December 2012, oil and gas companies using hydraulic fracturing in Alberta are required to post the chemicals they use on the privately run website frackfocus.ca. But only 28 wells in the county where the Hawkwoods live have posted such information. Environmental researcher Chris Severson-Baker says the province's regulations lag behind industry activity.
But they haven't introduced a comprehensive suite of new rules and regulations that address the concerns that the people are having about them at this point in time. And so a lot of people who are dealing firsthand with fracking are feeling like there's a gap.
Alberta is still working on a more comprehensive approach to regulate fracking and other unconventional oil and gas exploration technologies.
That guy that's got the drilling rig right beside him right now.
But Dan Thomas says Canada typically trails the U.S. on energy industry regulation by 8 to 10 years. In the meantime, his neighbors like the Hawkwoods will be pressing their provincial government to act.
I would say to them, you need to prove to me that this is safe before you do it in my backyard.
Jessica Stone, CCTV, Cochrane, Alberta.